It's not just the end of day 5 of this test match. It's the end of a unique, extraordinary series that began in August 2021, took a pause in September 21, restarted in July, and at the end of it all, guess what? There's 2 tests to England, 2 tests to India. So the Pataudi Trophy is shared. But a lot of the conversation will be about this test match, and it's an extraordinary test match because it was one of the largest run chases in the history of the game. At no point did the chasing side look threatened, and you don't always see that. Well, they looked threatened for a little 50-run period out of 378. And yet, for a major part of it all, it seemed that India was ahead when they made 416, coming back from 98 for 5, when England only got 284 in spite of that extraordinary century by Jonny Bairstow. Then England started to claw their way back. Start of day 4. They won day 4, I thought, and comprehensively won day 5 to win by 7 wickets. Right, something interesting is happening in the test match game. I don't know if we've got enough data points. It's only been 4 test matches on very good wickets in home conditions. But 378 runs, irrespective of what conditions you're batting in, who you're batting against, to win with 7 wickets is extraordinary. Michael Vaughan's been watching it as well. And I wonder if he's as flabbergasted as I am by the fact, Michael, that other than a 50-run phase, from about 107 to 150, about 40-45 run phase, the batting side was not threatened. I mean, you've played so much, you've seen so much. Does it strike you as unusual, or do you think we're seeing the start of something new?
Oh, yeah, I think it is the start of something new. I can guarantee this, Harsh, if India had not left Manchester last year to go to the IPL, they'd have won the series 3-1. I've no doubt about that. But what they've come up against here this week, for the first 3 days, I thought India were exceptional. But this England side have got this new mentality, this new way of playing, that they're just going to keep punching. They're just going to keep kind of coming out swinging at the opposition. I think we'll always talk about the batting and the way that they're playing in terms of the aggressive nature. That partnership that we've just witnessed, special up there with the great partnerships. But I don't think enough will be made of the fact that England bowled India out in the second innings for a total that was very, very below par for what India were batting. And they should have got another 100, at least another 100. And if they'd have done that, 478, well, don't tell me that England can chase 478 when the game would have been another couple of hours deeper. But we're seeing something that it's very special, Harsha. I mean, I'm just looking now at the England side and what they've done to cricket in the UK in the last 6 weeks. I've never heard people talk about Test cricket as much as I've heard them in the last 6 weeks for a long, long time. And that involves Ashes series. It involves 2019. It involves 15, 13, 2009. You're going back probably to my time in 2005. This England side has done something to Test cricket that has made everybody want to watch them. And that's people that probably are cricket fans that have kind of left the game and thought, oh, Test cricket's a bit boring. They're back. And I reckon a lot of new fans have suddenly got into Test cricket because of this style of cricket England are playing.
Yeah. And I'll say that from what I said yesterday. I think when you take fear out of a person, you start to see possibilities rather than defeats. And you've been captain. You've probably seen that yourself through that great series in 2005. When you take the fear of defeat away, you suddenly open your eyes to possibility. And I think what England have done is an outcome of taking away that fear and saying, okay, we might lose, but we might win. And the moment you say, yeah, we might win, you open your eyes. And I think that's been most dramatic. I don't think, as I said, we've got enough data points. It's only been 4 games, but this could be the start of what Owen Morgan and the white ball game did in 2015, saying we will play a certain way. And by playing that way, we will force the opposition to look at us differently. Now, if you put your captain's hat on, did India go on the defensive because they were worried of what an aggressive England side could do? And is that what almost made it easier, that India started to play to the reputation of this new England side? Would that be a fair comment, or would that be stretching things a bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you make some really good points about, the fearless way of playing. You play against any sporting team that doesn't care about losing. They are hard to play against. It's a nightmare because this mentality comes at you that players keep being aggressive. Players like Alex Lees, who only 6 weeks ago was batting like Jeffrey Boycott. I'm not having a go at Jeffrey, but he wanted to bat for long periods of time and just kind of work their magic over many hours of batting for 100. Well, Alex Lees has come out and played aggressively. Yeah, he's only averaging 24, but you can see the mentality change in Alex Lees. You can see it across the whole side. And when you're playing against a side like that, it's very difficult. When you're arriving every day and you're looking at an opposing team and an opposing balcony, and they're all smiling, they're all laughing, they've got the shades on, they're slapping each other on the back of the head. Yeah, just have a bit of fun, go and have a go. Doesn't matter if you get out doing so. It's a very hard mentality to play against. And I think you're right. India probably feared that, probably spread too soon, started to worry about the boundaries rather than thinking, right, we've got to get them out. So if I'm playing against England now, I'm purely thinking about getting them out. The runs are going to flow. They're going to fly because that's the style of cricket they're going to play. So you have to think as a team, right, okay, we've just got to get 10 wickets in the first innings and we're going to get 10 wickets in the second. Where's the ball going to go in the air? And just put fielders in those positions and take England on at their own game. That's the way I play against England. With the batting hand, I think not many teams can play in this expansive way. So you're playing your fashion in terms of batting. But when you've got the ball in hand, the way to play against England is to think, wickets, get them out. Don't allow them to spread the field and don't allow them to... That good ball, like we talked last night, can't be going for a single. You've got to put the squeeze on them.
And I think that makes sense if you look at who's got runs against England either. And that's Rishabh Pant, who played a very similar style of cricket and got a big 100. So maybe, who knows, we could finally be seeing the influence of T20 cricket on the manner in which they're playing. Not in the slogs, but just in the mindset with which you chase totals down. 146 from 111 balls. He made 203 runs in the test match, was the bright star. Him and Bumrah were really the people you remember. Maybe a little unlucky, Mohammad Shami and the Jadeja 100. But apart from that, maybe this is the way we are headed. As I said, this is just the start. We don't have enough data points to build a curve. But who knows? We might say, you know what, we saw something. We might be seeing something else too, which is what I want to ask Michael on the hot spot. It's always been a captain's game, Michael. When you won the Ashes, everyone remembers that as Michael Vaughan's team. When Steve Vaughan was doing well, you remember that as Steve Vaugh's side. When MS Dhoni was doing well, you remember as MS Dhoni's side. It's always been seen as the captain's side. And yet I saw the difference that came about in India. Say when Gary Kirsten was coaching, and all of a sudden everyone was feeling so much better, so much more relaxed, and India started to go to a different level. Do you think we are just maybe with a dominant character like Brendan McCullum, are we starting to take first steps towards even Test cricket being a coach's team? Or does the coach's influence end and the captain still take the team past the white line?
Well, I think in this regard, I think both. I don't think Brendan could have done what he's trying to achieve without Ben. I don't think Ben can do what he's trying to achieve without Brendan. I think they're a combination that's worked brilliantly so far. You look at what Trevor Bayliss actually tried to do with the England Test match team many years ago. It was almost a similar thing, but I don't think he had a similar captain working in his kind of mechanism of thought in Joe Root, and also before that, Alistair Cook. So you've got two ultra aggressive leaders at the top of the tree, and two very positive people. The language, you keep hearing Ben Stokes say in the press conference, the language that you use in the dressing room, and it's clearly very much a positive language, very much about playing aggressively. Don't worry if you make mistakes. We're going to take the opposition on, impacting the game at all times, always on the front foot. You run towards danger. That's Brendan McCullum's favourite saying, run towards danger. And I think in terms of what we've seen in probably cricket history, I don't remember a change in coach captaincy make such a drastic change so quickly. I've seen it in football. I've seen it in football many times where a manager is replaced and quickly a team suddenly gets a leash of life. I saw it this year with Tottenham and Antonio Conte in the Premier League. But you tell me, Harsha, I hate to say it, you've been around cricket a lot longer than me. Have you ever seen a captain-coach combination that's made such a drastic change that we've just seen from what we've seen with England?
I think we saw that in that Gary Kirsten phase, because I think there was a disconnect between Greg Chappell, whose ideas were modern and radical, but whose methods were a little difficult for a lot of the Indian team to fathom. So I saw the contrast when a milder man manager actually came in, rather than a rather more domineering play it my way. But I suddenly saw the players bloom almost. And these were players who had done really well before, but it was the environment that Gary created that saw that happen. I saw Ravi and Virat, similar kind of people, and India got some results in Test match cricket, maybe not so in ICC cricket, but it'll be very interesting. And I think this whole position of director of cricket, and I wonder if India might get there one day too, just to ensure that you've got the right personalities in charge, because I don't think any country is ever short on talent. I think talent blooms everywhere. It's just the captain coach combination coming together to put things together. And I'd love to see how England go. They've got 3 more tests at home, and then when they travel, I'd like to see how they go. But let's come back. Let's come back to this test match a little bit. We talked about it briefly yesterday. We talked about the first half hour. Could India have done anything different at all, or do you think India wore a resigned look? And are these tracks almost too flat for test match cricket?
They're not too flat. England got India out in the second innings on the same track. I just think India lost the plot a bit yesterday. I think, in these kind of situations, particularly when you're playing against a team that's playing so well, you have small windows where you have to strike and you have to get your tactics right. You have to get your field settings right. And I just thought they lost the plot yesterday afternoon. What we are seeing is things that I've never seen in Test cricket. It's the highest target that England have ever chased down. Done it 3 wickets down in 76 overs. I never thought I'd see that in Test match cricket. So they are doing things that we've never seen before. In Joe Root, England's greatest player, and that's not just praising him because of what he's done recently. I've said it a long, long time that he will end up being England's greatest player. Well, I think he's there now. I think he is there now, that no one can argue that across the formats, Joe Root is England's greatest ever player. When you look at Joe Root's record in particular, go back to 2019. Virat Kohli had 27 Test hundreds in 2019. Joe Root at that time had 16 Test centuries. Virat still got 27. Joe Root now has 28. It's a remarkable run of form. We're seeing things from Joe Root in Test cricket in terms of consistency that we've very rarely seen from many. And that's some of the greats and incredible players of the game. What Joe is consistently producing and has produced now for 2 years is as good. If you've got it'd be a long DVD because he's had that many innings, but any kids looking and wanting to play the game, I just say copy Joe Root. Just copy everything about his game: the smile, the energy, the skill, that little reverse. Well, it's not a little. That reverse ramp he keeps playing that goes into the stands. It's pure joy. I mean, we're cricket lovers, Harsha, and it doesn't matter when a player plays like that. I don't care who they play for, whether it's India, England, West Indies, Australia. I admire, and I'm just sitting back and admiring greatness at the minute in Joe Root.
We sometimes look for little hints that tell us of larger things to come. Now, India's last 7 defeats in Sena countries, as we call them, South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia, which are the countries most removed in character of the pitches and conditions than India. India's last 7 defeats have all come batting first. Now, most times you say you win the toss, you bat first. If you're uncertain, you think about it and bat first. And this is across South Africa, a little bit of Australia, New Zealand, and England. The last 7 defeats have all come batting first. And the last 2 test matches in South Africa, there was a par total. The test match is about 240, 250 run innings. And yet India lost both for just 3 wickets down. We saw young Keegan Peterson come out and play beautifully. Yeah. Rassie van der Dusen played beautifully. Now we're seeing that in England. I just wonder whether this 4th innings bowling could be a factor. I mean, there's Bumrah, there's Shami. I wonder, Siraj is a good bowler. Shardul took 7 wickets there, but I wonder if there's something more to it, that you're now losing 3 or 4 test matches, not able to defend 4th inning scores.
Yeah, I think one of the differences in this era, Harsha, is that you go back 10 years ago, you were always worried about the spinner in the last innings. Now, the way that these players now are attacking spin with reverse sweeps, reverse ramps, you name it, they've got all the tricks. They're almost saying to the spinner, we're going to come at you. I said it on day one, and I'll stick back. If Ashwin had been playing this week, I think there'd been a different outcome to this game. I just think Ravi Ashwin is just such a skilled bowler on any wicket. I think it'd have made more of an impact than we saw from Thakur, both with the bat and also with the ball. And India, when you've got such high quality spin, and I always say Ashwin's up there. Now, he's not up there at the minute with Murali and Shane Warne, but he's close because he's a world class performer. Shane Warne and Muralitharan would always play in English conditions. And I always think that someone like Ashwin should have played. I think the game situation would have been different if he had. And chasing would have been a lot harder with Ashwin in the side. But I do think there will be a trend now. And if you look at the modern game of one-day cricket and chasing 300, 320 quite comfortably, why shouldn't you be able to do that in Test match cricket? You've got longer. You can take your time if you want to, but they generally don't want to. But, I think the psyche of a chase in our time was always the fear of the chase rather than actually it should be possible. And it was almost because people used to say, the history book says that you can't chase that, and the history book says it's not possible. Well, actually, I think this England side over the course of 4 games have proven to everyone that actually the pitches aren't deteriorating so much. You can attack spin. So I think we'll see more of a trend that I'm not so sure all captains will do what Ben Stokes has done and say, right, we're bowling first because we want to chase. But I don't think teams will be scared of chasing down in Test match cricket. It seems quite a common trend that's happening at the minute.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if this new trend that we're seeing is specific to certain conditions or whether it can withstand other conditions where, say in India, for example, where a 4th day, 5th day big wicket is that much more treacherous, or in Australia sometimes when you get up and down bounce as you head towards the end, or maybe in Adelaide when the ball spins. So we'll wait and see. But this is a brave new world that we are entering, and I think we must savor this. I wonder if India missed Rohit Sharma a little bit. I wonder if there's a few question marks. The next 6 Test matches are all going to be played in Asian conditions. The focus is now going to be entirely on white ball cricket with the T20 World Cup coming up. And then there's an IPL and there's another one-day 50-over World Cup as well coming up. So I wonder if the focus is going to be a little more on white ball cricket with Test matches coming in more familiar circumstances. But now let's move on to the white ball game. And this is an extraordinarily packed schedule. I don't know if you've seen before, Michael, where you've got a 17-day tour with 11 playing days in them. And as a result, we've got interesting phenomenon developing where India have got a different team for the first T20 international. And then you suddenly realize, oh, no, hang on, there's a T20 World Cup. We need to get our best players back in. So different team for the second and third T20 internationals, and some one-day players like Shikhar Dhawan coming in to play the ODIs. So there's a lot of flux. Number one, is that good? And number two, how do you see the T20 series panning out with England having a very, very, very different side? I mean, there's no Root. There will probably be Bairstow, but no Alex Lees. There is no Crawley, no Anderson, no Broad, no Potts, no Leach. So England's team is completely different, and India's significantly different.
Yeah, I mean, England's white ball squad's exceptional. Josh Butler's first time of asking as the full-time skipper. Big chance for Matt Parkinson to play as the leg spinner. Richard Gleeson from Lancashire's a real talent. I know they're looking at him for the T20 World Cup. Tamar Mills obviously back in, but you look at that team with Livingston, Moeen Ali, Sam Curran, David Willey, Milan, Roy. Harry Brooks, a player that will play games. He's had a tremendous time of it at Yorkshire. England will be very hard to beat, Harsh. I mean, I just look at the schedule now for particularly England and India. It's ridiculous. It really is. And we'll see more and more of this over the next few years where it's just going to be impossible that all 3 format players will be able to play all 3 formats. They'll be having to miss series here, series there, but still continuing, I hope, to continue to play across the 3 formats. But the management of all these teams are going to have to be very clever in terms of giving them a little bit of a breather. You know, I look at Virat in particular. I know he had a little bit of a rest at the end of the IPL, but he just looks to me like he needs a sabbatical. He looks to me like he just needs 3 months away from cricket. Go and sit on a beach. Go and do what you can with your family and then come back, because, you know, a career of 20 years, which he probably will end up getting because he's such a good player, you know, to have a 3-month break, you know, is it going to affect him? No. I think, will it help him? Yes. And I look at a lot of the players. I look at Josh Butler that England may look to bring into the Test team, and talented and very aggressive, and at the top of the order, he could be absolutely a very exciting player to watch. But to play all the formats and the IPL and captain your white ball team, it's a tough ask. So I think clever management's required, and it's not going to go away, Harsha. It's not going to be that this is just the one-off that you're going to see these kind of situations. I think that's going to be quite a common trend. Just look at 2 weeks ago, England were playing in the Netherlands while the Test match team were playing at Headingley. I think we're going to see more and more of that, where there'll be pocketed white ball series, potentially against, I'm not saying, you know, the lesser teams, you know, they're not the more high profile, powerful teams, the Islands, the Scotland, the Netherlands. I think those kind of series will possibly be played around the same time as Test match cricket, and that's fine. There's enough player to go around.
Yeah. And we're seeing the specialization coming in too. So we've already seen that with Australia, with England, now with India. Let's take a look at India's T20I squad. And it's a little complicated because of the comings and the goings. So this is the overall
Try and explain
squad. Okay, here I go. Ruturaj Gaikwad, Rahul Tripathi, Sanju Samson, Venkatesh Iyer, Arshdeep Singh will only be in the squad for the first T20I. And then for the rest of it, you will get Virat Kohli and the others, Virat Kohli, Rishabh Pant, Ravindra Jadeja, and the others coming back. But for India, I suspect it's going to be a problem of plenty, because while the lead players were away, Deepak Hooda has done really well. Surya Kumar Yadav is someone who just gets T20 cricket. He's a wonderful player. Do you leave Hooda out? Do you leave Surya Kumar Yadav out? What happens with Rishabh Pant? But Ishan Kishan has done well. So I just think there's a problem of plenty. And while you might think that's a good problem to have, I'm not sure it's always a great problem, because everyone's looking over their shoulder. So I'll be very interested in seeing how Rahul Dravid plays it, whether Deepak Hooda has earned his spot, whether Sanju Samson goes back, but he's done well in the chance that he has got. So very curious to see how they go about it, whether they've already identified a core group of 16 or 17 players who will be able to play well in Australia, where the tracks will have a little bit more bounce. I only hope they don't bring the boundaries in Australia. We saw already when the boundaries are back, T20 cricket changes character. So Will Wherens is, no, you're shaking your head, Michael. You think they're going to bring the boundaries in, aren't you?
No, I don't think they will. I think Australia want big boundaries.
Oh, good.
I think Australia will know that it'll suit their style of play. They're real aggressive, power hitting down the ground, and also it'll suit their bowling attack to bowl bounces at some of these teams that necessarily don't play the short ball as well. India are a talented bunch, and they should be right up there with the favourites for the T20 World Cup, but they've got to find a better mechanism. I just worry about the bowling options for India. I don't know if they've got enough. They always seem to have 5 bowling options, 6 batters, and I personally would want 7 options in T20 cricket, and it's trying to find out or find players in that top 5 who can offer you a few overs. Maybe Hardik Pandya bats in the top 5, and that gives you an all-rounder in that top 5, which spreads you kind of line up a bit thicker. But I do worry for India that they don't have enough bowling options.
And the other issue that everyone will be looking at in the last 2 T20 internationals and then later on is the form of Rohit Sharma and the form of Virat Kohli. If those two are going well, India will suddenly look a very different side in Australia. So there you are. That's the end of one part of the tour. India have lost out on an opportunity of continuing their series win every 4th series, 71, 86, 2007 and now. And so many records broken in the course of one test match. One record in particular was an astonishing record of India never having lost a test match, having conceded a lead of 100 runs. Well, that's gone too. Records are meant to go on there. So there you are. That's the end of the test series. Look forward to joining all of you. Cricbuzz Live will be around for the white ball games. So do join all of us then. For the moment, Michael Vaughan, who's in Somerset watching his young man grow up. It's always a sign you're growing up, Michael, getting older. You made a reference to how much cricket I've watched. Your son is going up the ranks, so wish him well.
Yeah, I'm in Somerset watching. I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's a sign of age, isn't it? When you're starting to sit on a deck chair watching your lad play. That's a little reminder that I've had a few digs of your age over the last few days, Harsha. Thanks for getting one back on me.
I'm okay. It's something you cannot fight against, but there you are. So thank you very much to Michael Vaughan. Thank you all of you for watching, and we'll join you again when the white ball games start in a couple of days.